Well, hello, good afternoon. It's just gone midday.
What happened to the music? What happened to the fabulous? You're not at
Oh,
home.
well, I'm not at home, am
I
I? So
thought you
I
were at
can't do that. So I'm so
home. I
sorry.
thought maybe you'd got a saucy photo up behind you, and it was like,
I don't know what this photo is behind me. I'm quite sure. I'm sorry about
is it?
that.
Is it Rebecca? Is it a tribute
Stop
to?
it.
No.
You're going to get me fired.
Is it Julia Hartley Brewer?
I don't know who that is. Now,
That is Julia Hartley Brewer.
Anyway.
Is it? It could be. I don't know.
I have to warn you now. This is what you call a working lunch. So
you're not going to be chomping your way through. Oh, Jesus!
As if I would do that to you. You know full well that you. I know you don't like it if I do that. So
well, I don't. I've never seen Mike Graham or John Humphreys or Terry Wogan. Didn't you sit on his chat show? Having a sarnie.
Well, quite.
He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Anywho, here we are, the start of another week here on Men's Radio Station. Welcome everybody. I wonder where everybody is, where they're all lurking.
I can tell you where they're lurking.
Where are they lurking?
Well, sort of didn't have it set that we were going live on Facebook Men's Radio, so I've just changed that. It's fine, don't worry. We're now live on Men's Radio Facebook page.
You know why? Do you know why that was? That was me, because I put some of these, because I had to get links out to our guests, etc. I did that. Are you happy? Well, never really, Chrissy, but thank you, bless you. It's you can only set it so far in advance, so many days in advance. I did this too many days in advance, so now we're out shooting the breeze on as many things as we can.
No, it's quite all right. We're on Facebook Live now. It's fine. Any odd way. Chrissy, a very good afternoon to you. And when you say, "Are we happy?" Well, I mean, I'm relatively chipper. I mean, there's time for that to change over the course of the next hour, but I'm not too bad at the moment.
Obviously, I can see if I can sod that up. I can see if I completely mess that up. He won't be happy by the end of it. We should, I hope, have a very interesting. No, I won't do that. I have a reminder. Chrissy, what is that? What is? Where?
She sets a reminder to watch the show.
Does she do that?
Isn't that nice?
Or is there something? It's beautiful. Does something come up automatically that Chrissy can say?
Nah, we're not that clever.
Right. Pretty dull weekend. I'm not going to kid you. Dull as hell. Apart from seeing the fabulous Ray Gelato, and for my coffee and cigar. Colin's not well, and it's really nice. I want to say congratulations. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine, myself, Ray Gelato, and Colin Vaines meet for coffee and a cigar every Saturday morning, and we have done for a long time. Colin has the #1 film on Netflix currently as the producer. I'm so proud of him. It's the #1 film. It's starring Sandra Bullock. It's called The Unforgivable. And there we are. So I'm so proud of my cigar pal, because we've only talked about it for the last 18 months or so, and it's fantastic to see that it's gone straight to the #1 on Netflix film. So well done to my pal Colin.
Bravo.
Let's dash across to where are we? Oh no, the wrong one. I pressed the wrong one because I'm a fool.
Well, fancy doing that, honestly.
He's a Don Brown. He sounds like he should be like, Dukes of Hazzard. You know what I'm talking about, Leia? But he probably doesn't. Here's Don Brown. Good morning from New York. Now, New York State, we're presuming, unless you're just spending the weekend in New York City. Ramsey is saying, well done, Colin. Absolutely. Ramsey's back again. I had a rubbish weekend.
I actually, am I allowed to say, I'm sorry to rub it in, I had a very nice weekend. I went to go and visit a friend who lives in Cheltenham. I went to go and stay with him for a couple of days.
You remember, because I did my fantastically hilarious horse racing thing.
Yes, you did.
Phil Dave there, and the sheepskin noseband, and the blinkers on the far side there, and the colours of Her Majesty the Queen. 2 furlongs out from home. Phil Dave under.
That's my impression of someone watching a race. Did you see that?
What? We are not going to talk about Formula One today. We're just not, because...
Oh, good. Can I just say, karma is very cruel.
He was very gracious. No, praise where it's due and credit's where it's due.
And we're Jews.
Oh, you're such an idiot. The Lewis Hamilton in defeat was very gracious. I've got to be honest with you. I'm not a huge Lewis fan. I'm not sure who I'm a fan of in F1 particularly. I like Kimi Räikkönen because he just doesn't care. Are you having a good time? Yeah, it's all right. Now here we go. Oh, see, Rams is straight in, still feeling sore about the FIA giving Max the race he needed. It's If you're not into Formula One, this would be the most boring conversation on the planet, apart from Phil's food. But if you are into
And
it,
excuse me, hang on a second. I was very gracious with that. I muted the microphone so no one could hear anything. There was no chomping sound effects or anything like that.
Yeah, thank Christ. The Rams. What have we got here? Graham Simpson. Oh, hang on. Let's just. This is controversial. But are you still there?
I'm somewhere here. Graham Simpson.
Yeah, you read this.
Anyone that kneels for BLM is Black Lives Matter, to those who don't know, I'm sure you do by now, and calls for the removal of statues linked to slavery should at least have some comprehension that the team that pays him millions of pounds to drive their car exists and openly profited from the murder of thousands, try millions, of people in Nazi slavery and death camps. In fact, anyone supporting the narcissist homophobic individuals should give their head a wobble. Well, Graham, I think to be fair, and this is not very often I say this, to be fair to Lewis Hamilton, believe me, those words very scarcely go together when I'm talking. But to be fair to Lewis Hamilton, I don't think that he does anything other than just go where the money is. And I sort of don't blame him for that. However,
he just sold his penthouse in New York for 41 million. That was just one property.
I'm very happy for him to some degree. But look, I'd say that I don't think that that's the reason he works with Mercedes. I think that they probably just sort of offered him the most amount of money and off he went. But I can't deny that it is a bit hypocritical that you sort of openly denigrate slavery-related statues, allegedly, that mean absolutely nothing to anybody, and yet a company that still exists with very dodgy history, should we say. It's really important to stress it's obviously not dodgy now, but dodgy history behind it, and make no reference to that. I agree, it's quite extraordinary. But then again, I suppose, are you really going to talk out against your boss? Probably not.
It's deeply hypocritical. It is deeply hypocritical. What was Hitler's car of choice? Mercedes-Benz. That's what he had.
And like VW Beetles, apparently, as well.
And no. According to Volkswagen, of course, they were only created in the 60s by hippies, thus completely forgetting the fact that Volkswagen stands for Car of the People and was created as part of the Nazi dream. I mean, you couldn't make it up, but it's all true. You can't keep reinventing history. That's the reason I don't like Lewis, because he just gets on, On the other hand, just to look at the flip side of the coin, it could be argued that someone with so much influence, who influences millions and millions of people on a global stage, wants to have a voice. I'm not interested in your voice. I'm interested in whether you can drive a car or not. I look at my heroes, Sir Sterling Moss, Ayrton Senna, Nelson Piquet, Johnny Herbert. I'm not interested in their political views. I'm interested in them as Formula One drivers. That's it. That's the beginning, middle, and end of it. The rest of it, I couldn't give a monkey's about. All right? And I think he should just shut up. That's me personally. It put me off him. And certainly kneeling for BLM, you'd have to put a gun to my head. Screw him. It's interesting. I feel guilty now for driving a Mercedes. Look, they're fabulous cars. They're brilliant engineering. It was 2-3 generations ago.
And it is very much in their past.
I've had Mercedes, and they're fantastic cars.
It's in their past. I know loads of Jews who drive Mercedes. It's silly, you can't necessarily associate it with it now in this day and age, but that's the whole point. That is the whole flipping point, is you cannot cling on to events that happened in the past and blame the current generation for them. That's why I strongly object to when people want to rip down statues. Those statues are nothing to do with us here and now. They're a reminder of history. They're a good reminder of history, and they're important to learn from. So ripping them down just means you're forgetting about it. If people stop talking about the Holocaust, I'd go nuts. I'd be very unhappy about that, because it means it leaves it wide open for stuff to happen all over again. And that's horrific thought.
Absolutely. And
frankly, it's happening already in some parts of the world.
And over from New York, Azadon Brown, I wholeheartedly agree. We've got a new producer on the show, Phil. I didn't mention to you that I've hired a new producer. Her name is Lisa Janes. And she's telling us, I thought this was about mental health, guys. I'm pretty sure Formula One isn't part of it. Well, let me answer it this way, Lisa. Valid point. Number one, a lot of people go to sport to relax. It is their decompression time. It's the time, whether you love football, I couldn't give a monkeys about football, but millions of people adore football, cricket. It's how people relax, and people relax for their mental health. I love motorsport, always have, and I love Formula One, always have. I watch it to relax. When you suddenly bring politics into it, when you change rules, when the FIA, which will mean nothing to you, Lisa, I'm guessing, I'm not being rude, I suggest probably not, that they suddenly change the rules, and within 5 minutes of the end of the race, on Twitter, there were 34,000 tweets. I don't know how much it's ramped up to this morning, I haven't checked. People going crazy with fury. They're angry. Well, anger is part of mental health. I'm not here to discuss the technology of Formula One. I could talk about it for hours and the history of Formula One and et cetera, et cetera. Behind me, you see the thing on the wall? There we are. See that? That is a pictorial representation of every Formula One world champion since Formula One began in 1950.
Oh, wow. No, but Lisa, can I just point out, you're right to highlight it. I was going to say, Lisa, you're totally right to highlight that, because that absolutely is our remit at men's radio and women's radio. Of course, it's about mental health and well-being first and foremost. But the problem is that sort of when you have a political situation brought into the world of sports, which is one of the few places left where people don't have to think about politics, it's very unpleasant. It does affect people because it winds them up. And that's more the point we're talking about here. Forget the politics of it. I don't really sort of care too much about BLM. To me, I'd actually sort of rather not give them any more airtime than they've already got, which I think they're a pointless organization and a disgusting one at that. So I'd rather not give them any more publicity. But that's kind of my point, though, is that when you've got such a divisive organization and someone who is supposed to be apolitical, someone whom people from whatever side of the political fence you sit on look up to and hugely admire for the work they do in their sport, it can very much upset people in the wrong way. Well, it's never a good way to upset people, but you can very much upset people for bringing politics into it. And that's why we talk about it, and that's where it just goes wrong. It's not a good idea. Seriously, I've always thought politics should be well and truly out of sports, no matter what the sports is.
And it's interesting. Here's an interesting point from Ramsey. Lisa, a lot of men do follow sport, and what happens does impact men's mental health. And another thing about it is this constant division. There's going to be a pushback. There's going to be a pushback, the likes of which we have not seen for decades, because the silent majority have had enough of this crap. We've had enough of it. We've had enough of woke, of BLM, of tearing down statues, of redefining biology. It's all nuts. It is nuts. And it will stop, and there will be a terrible, terrible conflagration about this, and it's going to be deeply unpleasant. And I'm not looking forward to any of it, I can assure you. But this whole thing about division, Lisa, think of it this way. Sunday afternoon, it's everything to play for. It's coming down to one race, and people are excited. So all over the world, they're watching this race because it's very rare. It's almost like a movie. It's not been decided, and it's all down to one race. And then the division is, some people think they've changed the rules to help one side, and the other people think it's perfectly fair, and hooray, they haven't changed the rules. And it's making people angry. And it's the thing you don't want. You want to be able to relax. That's why it's about mental health. You want to watch it, to enjoy it, to find it exciting, to find it interesting, and to forget everything else that's going on in your life.
And Lisa, if I may also throw in as well, make no mistake, I have zero interest. The only sport I'm remotely interested in is tennis. And that's only really much in the summer season. So honestly, I'm not talking about this for sport's sake, I promise you.
Okay. Here's an interesting point from Ramsey, who's on fire today. My wife has 2 sons, has been married to me for 27 years, and still seems surprised we're all shouting at the TV at a sporting issue. It's called passion. It's called passion. Let's change the subject. I like
Well, emotions run high.
Oh, jeez. Come on, you've got to read this.
Stephen Marsh, I like your jacket, Phil. Did you pay for it by check? And of course, check. The check that he refers to, because he's trying to make it sort of sound like a word that sounds something very similar, of course, should be CHEQUE, CHECKQUE, but QUE. But even so, that was almost as much as me trying to say "Do Dizzy Beaky make a titch." Anyway,
you did it. You did it.
Did I?
You just did it. You just did. I'm not going to ask you to do it again because you'll F it up, but you did it. Gracious.
All right.
Right, look at this.
I've been practicing.
I will always be grateful for listening to me live. Oh, I should always. Well, I don't quite understand that, Lisa. But anyway, I will always be grateful for listening to me live. But I think you should concentrate on how people are coping with what's going on in the world today. I love sports. Wow. I know we kind of always do deal with how are you doing? How are you coping? The thing about men's radio station and women's radio station, it's completely interactive. We don't censor it. So all your comments here, and you can also phone if you wanted to, but all your comments here, they're there for everybody to see. They are there. We don't choose what goes up on the side. You're looking at the same things that we are.
I think Lisa's talking about when we took a call live once. I think she's referring to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But look,
I've got
it with regards to sort of the situation. Okay, so now it's been brought up, given in regards to the situation that's going on in the world at the moment.
All right.
There are two trains of thought I have behind this.
Okay.
With regard to the Omicron variant of COVID, and it does sound like a bit like something out of sounds like something out of Transformers, doesn't it?
Robots in it's Omicron.
Transformers, robots in disguise. Look, I feel that there are two trains of thought. The first one being is that the World Health Organization, the WHO, the World Health Organization know more about this than they're letting on. Because otherwise, why are they reacting like this? Well, that's the only thing I can think of. Why are they reacting so severely to this variant?
Oh, God. What do they know we don't? What do they know that we don't know? Oh,
okay. Well, that's the only thing I can think of. Alternatively, it is pure scaremongering in a bid to try and sort of alleviate the typical winter pressures that health services all around the world face at this time of year.
That's every year. That's been every year since we were.
No, I know, but I would suggest that if that's but what I would suggest as well is that if you look at somewhere like South Africa, okay, where Omicron, I can never say it, where Omicron was first discovered, and they appear to have already peaked in terms of Omicron infections. Okay, their infection numbers of Omicron are going down after 3 weeks. Okay, because that's how quickly.
South Africa.
Yeah, but that's how quickly it spreads. 3 weeks, and they pretty much have seen the peak in South Africa already. Now, their hospital numbers are nowhere near as dramatic as Delta variant or any previous variant. And the numbers of deaths that have been recorded from Omicron in this country, maybe 20 minutes before we went live, that's when the first person known to have died with Omicron variant occurred. Yep, right. One person. Okay, I'm very, very sorry for that person's family. That's very sad. It's horrible. No death is a good death. But we have lost over, 30,000 people or something horrendous like that to this virus so far. 130,000 people to this virus so far.
Yep.
Whatever the numbers are. It's one person with Omicron has lost their life. Now, make no mistake, it's sad. But for heaven's sakes,
for that family, it's one person too many.
Of course it is. Of course, I'm not justifying that at all. But heaven's sakes, put it into perspective. You know, we've got through seasons of flu where up to 30,000 people have died, and no one bats an eyelid.
No, because we weren't told that flu was going to wipe us out. It's flu. We're used to it. What have we got here? I was trying to do Stephen Marsh. As Delta is the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet, Omicron is the 15th. What happened to the letters between referring to COVID variants? Have there been?
Do you know what? Actually, Stephen, I assume you're laughing that off to some degree, but actually, I heard some virologists speaking the other day, and they were actually saying, yes, It's actually the reason why Omicron is being highlighted over previous variants is because other variants have almost sort of come and gone, not causing any more concern since we had Delta. But apparently this is a cause for concern now, and that's why they're highlighting this. And that's why it's so many letters along, apparently.
All right. Let's kick off. Let's go to Spain. He's having sushi, by the way, gang, in case you're wondering what he's eating. Here in Spain, didn't even play the music. No, you can't. Here in Spain, COVID cases have gone from 40 out of 100,000, 40 per 100,000. Am I reading that right?
Per.
All right, 40 per 100,000 to 305 out of 100,000 in a few weeks. But most areas are not locking down. Some autonomous areas are stopping gathering in large stopping gathering. I'm reading Chrissy E's here in large parties. Okay. The difficulty with
but it's not. It honestly, case numbers is not what we should be focusing on. I know people think otherwise, but I wholeheartedly believe it's not about case numbers. It's about those who end up in hospital with it. Yeah. And as it stands, as far as Omicron is concerned, there are a handful of people who are in hospital with the Omicron variant. Okay. The biggest bugbear with Omicron is how much it transmits. It's a highly transmissible variant, and that's why people are worried about it. For
God's sake. Oh, Jesus. I just come back from my mum's. I had to go to a shop. Guy stood asking a question, lashing sweat, sick of COVID. What? So Veronica's...
no, I think what Veronica is saying, had to go into a shop. Yeah. A guy stood asking a question, lashing sweat, and she says she is sick of COVID.
Well, we're all sick. Veronica.
I'm guessing she didn't like the fact that someone was perspiring in her presence.
No, I don't bloody like it either.
And to be fair, though, I would imagine that when Father Christmas has been overworking, he'd be perspiring in your presence as well.
I get that. You've done Father Christmas and presents and change it. Shut up. Ramsey says this. I'm hearing that Omicron is really contagious. Well, yeah, that's the deal. A family gathering of 23. Jeez, you see, look at this, Phil. A family gathering of 23 ended with 19 getting the Omicron variant. Having just overcome COVID, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Let's all heed medical advice. Well, I'm going to tell you now. My son is recovering from COVID. He does not live. He lives separately because he's a bit grown up. He's 23 now. He's one of the twins, and he is as fit as a flea. I mean, he goes to the gym every day. He's a gym bunny. He's completely vegan. He's 6'3". He is built like a bodybuilder, as fit as you want anyone to ever be. I mean, extraordinary. His physique is incredible because of his training for many, many years. And he said, Dad, I've never been so ill. He looked, we dropped both my partner and I got food, and we dashed round there, and he put the food out the front door, run back to the car like it's an exploding bomb. But, from the distance, he looked shocking. It's heartbreaking.
Look, I can hand on heart say, speaking as someone who had it back in March 2020, it's a very unpleasant experience. And make no mistake, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But at the same time, I have to ask myself, what did I find more unbearable? Feeling really ill for a couple of weeks, or this forever dark cloud that's hanging overhead that is totally obstructing our lives, forever wondering whether or not will things ever be the same again. And I hate to tell you, I know what I'm finding harder to deal with.
Which is all about mental health. Comes right back full circle. Let's lighten the mood with accountant to the stars, Stephen Marsh. Is it true that Cadbury's are reporting a massive increase in sales of their Boost bars?
Boom, boom.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen is here all week.
Stephen's an accountant, that figures.
Yeah, it kind of adds up. That's my dog. What's she doing? I know 3 people today, says Glassy Amanda, who's very high up in the psychotherapeutic community. I know 3 people today who've had that.
She works on level 14.
Yeah.
That's how high up she is.
Yeah, no, I got it. Didn't need to underline that. It was great the first time.
No, you do need. I think that sometimes humor is better off being explained, just because otherwise, in that way, you're being all inclusive. You see, in this day and age, we can't run the risk of excluding anyone. And there are some people out there who unfortunately just don't get good humor when they see it, or indeed when they hear it. And as a result of it, I feel that the only way to make sure that they're all included is to, on occasion, just offer a little caveat to go with it.
To all our friends at Deluxe Radio, all 42,000 of you plus, I'm so sorry. I know 3 people today who've had their operations cancelled next week after waiting over a year. Phil's going to explode. I know there's no further dates given. They are devastated. He said, this is freaking terrible. What I can't stand, and I know I have a personal beef about it, I'm not pretending I don't, is that cancer patients, heart patients, what the hell? They're being thrown under the bus. They're being thrown under the damn bus. Stephen's back. She works on level 14 and Mark King works on level 42. Stephen's very, very good. Hey, hi, Zen. Hope you're okay. Nice to have you along.
Look, the problem is that we're never going to, I don't think we're ever going to know the true numbers of people who have died indirectly because of COVID. In other words, all of those who have had misdiagnoses, all those have had those ones who've actually missed diagnoses altogether. In other words, they've just not picked up that they're ill because they haven't been being monitored. They haven't had their regular screenings, and all of these things that are deemed unimportant. They are super important because they were important before COVID. So why are they not important just because COVID's around? The bottom line is this has to boil down to the fact that the NHS can't cope with everything. And if it can't cope with everything, I think it's about high time that it was fixed and sorted and something was done about it, rather than expecting everyone just to go about their lives in new sort of unfamiliar ways that's affecting them in other ways.
All right, let's look at that. Let's look at that. And let's dice it and slice it just a little bit because it's really damn important here. They'll put up some of the comments just a sec. I can see you, Lisa, and Glassy as well. What you've said is correct, but I'd love to know how you propose that it's done. And let me just lay out the thing here. Clearly, the NHS can't cope. It's not a criticism. It's not like they're incompetent. They're doing a magnificent job, but they're faced with unprecedented circumstances and they're being flooded. So please don't think we're sitting here going, oh, the NHS can't. They're fabulous. The doctors and the nurses are magnificent. They're the finest in the world. End of. And we are incredibly, incredibly blessed to have it.
Well, I would suggest the first thing.
The envy of the world. It's the envy of the world.
The absolute first rule of thumb I would suggest, and I have said this elsewhere on the records that I've said this, I'm not really so that worried about saying it. I think if anyone is unvaccinated by choice, not unvaccinated because of medical reasons, that's a very different situation. Anyone who's unvaccinated by choice because they choose not to trust the vaccination, despite it being the official way the NHS is telling us to look after ourselves and prepare for it. If they get ill with COVID, I don't see why they should be entitled to treatment on the NHS when they've already been told the way they could have helped themselves. They've refused it. They should live with the consequences. That's the first step. Number two is I would suggest that they should never have shut down the Nightingale hospitals. That was too hasty. That was far too hasty. What they should do with the Nightingales is reinstate them, keep them open. Anyone who has COVID goes to a Nightingale. Hospitals stay open. Even if it is skeletal staff, they stay open. They carry on running with every other service and nothing to do with COVID. So if anyone has COVID, you go to your nearest Nightingale. If you have COVID, you don't go to the GP. You speak to a Nightingale.
See, the Nightingale thing was built. It just showed what Britain can do. It was fantastic. 1 minute it's the Excel Centre or whatever the hell it is. Boom. Mm-hmm. It's the Nightingale Hospital. Everyone's going, oh, this is magic, right? It can take up to 3,000 people. And Mark, correct me, because you're more of a news hound than I will ever be, right? So it can take 3,000 patients, right? The most it ever had, ever, was 42 people.
I got a feeling it was more than 3,000, but whatever it was, it was definitely in the thousands it could take, whoever it was.
It had the capacity to take thousands of patients. The most it ever had was like high
something 30s. Like 40 something. It was terrible.
Yeah, but it wasn't 50. So
one of the other problems with the Nightingales is that it didn't have enough staff to run it. Okay, this was one of the biggest things, and they never admitted that.
About that before they opened.
Well, they did. It wasn't because that was one of the arguments. They said, this is a circus because they built the thing and they didn't know how they were going to staff it.
Well,
but
who the bloody hell's in charge?
No, I know. But I would suggest that with that. No, I'm not. To me, there's an obvious solution. They're talking about drafting in the army now. We have some of the best army medics out there. Draft in the army. Get them to help with it. There's a way around it. There's absolutely a way. Ask for volunteers. There must be a volunteer program that can get started.
This is like starting a radio station. I'm using a stupid example. And then thinking, I haven't got any presenters. Well,
basically, that's exactly what it is.
Well, how can you do that? I mean, that's the logic of an idiot. Right, let's see what Glassy's got to say. I'm unable to. Could you read this out for a second, Phil? No, you're eating, don't worry.
I am unable to go to a family gathering on Sunday as there are 5 households going. All will be tested before, but having had 3 major surgery this year, 1 life-saving, I am not allowed to go because of my immunity. I'm so fed up. Level 14 is great.
I didn't know you'd had a life-saving operation.
Gracious. Very, very pleased you're still here to tell us that.
Damn right. I always love her contributions. Right. A long spiel from Lisa James. More people have died.
Lord.
Let's try again, Russell. Take 2, love. Still got that one for safety. All right. Hello, Stephen. Can you hear me? This is Clem Fandango. More people have died of being not getting a diagnosis or getting treatment. I think you know what she's saying, everybody. Suicide from mental health. And meanwhile, Doris Johnson throws a party in lockdown and Mark Drayford broke lockdown down to see his son in prison. People have died from influenza, not from influenza, darling, for years. So why were we not told to wear a mask then? Whilst people still went to work and went to pubs because you take Lemsip and cough medicine, you just get on with it. Funny there's no press about the deaths of pneumonia and flu.
I should point out, though, that to be fair, when these measures were implemented, less was known about COVID. So I think that the reason why these measures are sort of stuck, rightly or wrongly, personally I believe wrongly, but rightly or wrongly, is that it comes from a time when we didn't know just how deadly it could be. And make no mistake, I mean, 120,000 or so people having died from it in recent, in the last however many months we've been putting up with this hoo-ha is pretty grim in numbers. But I suppose you could argue that it's a bit like a flu that never goes away. If in one flu season we did lose 30,000 people one time, it's sort of like an extreme version of that, but there's no break from it, and that's the reason why it's so grim. But look, I think whatever happens, we need to take comfort from the fact that numbers are considerably down. Even if case numbers are up, the numbers of those who are in hospital are considerably more down than when Delta wave hit. The number of people who have sadly lost their lives are considerably more down from when the second wave hit. That was just horrific. Every single day we were seeing over about 1,200 people dying. That was horrendous. But the point is we don't see anything like that now. We have the most phenomenal vaccine program in this country. Boosters are being rolled out. I think it was yesterday they rolled out on the weekend about something like 500,000 booster jabs rolled out in the space of one day. That's an amazing achievement. There's 62 million of us in this country. In that rate, we'll be done in a few weeks with the booster jabs. And they want to be done within a couple of weeks. And I see no reason why not. I personally have my booster jab booked for tomorrow, and I'd encourage anyone to do the same if that's what the NHS advise.
Had mine at Aldi. No, not joking. I had mine at Aldi.
Gracious. What was it, in the middle aisle or something?
It was in the dairy aisle. It was a bit embarrassing. Could you move? Because I'm trying to get my trolley through, love. It was a bit embarrassing, but, it was okay.
It was on special offer, actually.
Yeah, special offer, a twofer or a bog off.
It was 2 flu 1.
Oh, that's a tumbleweed.
I'll work on it. Don't worry. I'll work on it and come back to you. Sorry.
Luke Newman says this. I dressed up as Father Christmas yesterday at a local hotel in Cambridge. Had a fantastic day. It was good for my mental health by putting a smile on children's faces. Doing something for others is very liberating and wonderful. It's a good thing.
Good work.
Now Lisa is what's he saying? Just on my way to the arcade in Cambridge. I don't know what that means. Okay, well,
you're going to go play Pac-Man or something.
He's going to play Tetris.
I love Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris is quite funny. It makes me a bit nervy, actually. Lisa James, they're being fired because they refused the jab. Oh man, I don't even know what I can't walk into this minefield. I just can't walk into this minefield. It's just I just can't. You know, I just can't. I don't know what people you know is you want people to have free will, which we don't obviously. You want people to just get on with their lives, but sometimes you got to do stuff for the greater good. I hate that phrase. I do hate that phrase. I don't understand this. I don't understand why people see it as a political thing. Do you think every world leader in every single country on the planet, and they're from every walk of life, from every political persuasion, you think they've all got together in some secret meeting and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get everyone vaccinated and then control. I mean, this is madness. This is the logic of an idiot. This is the logic of someone mentally ill. I honestly think some of this is just depressing.
Well, I think it's a sign that people can't cope with what they're hearing, which, as I've said before, I think is very sad, very disturbing. And frankly, I would believe that those individuals probably need the most help. If they are not able to deal with what they're being told, then that's actually sort of shameful that the powers that be have not done more to help those individuals cope with it.
Right. Ramsey says, Lisa Jane, so many millions wasted in this vain battle to control the virus. Well, it's not been vain, Ramsey. Billions were wasted on failed PPI, and the track and trace system was a pile of crap and absolutely outrageous cost. Many people have done well out of COVID. Oh, totally so. Totally so. Some people have made absolute fortunes.
But I would say, though, that I honestly don't blame people for doing that. If someone sees a business opportunity and they grab it, good luck to them. I wished I could.
Let's backtrack a little bit here. Stephen Marsh, I 100% agree with you, Phil, about the unvaccinated. Should they be fired then? Are we saying they should be fired? They shouldn't be in care homes looking after our mums and dads and grandparents? Shouldn't be in hospitals? What's the story here?
Look, it's a very slippery slope, but yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
but I don't but I'm not so sure I believe that someone like that should be fired per se. I think that what you should find is that if someone wants to work in the healthcare industry, but is not prepared to be vaccinated, then they shouldn't be allowed to work with the most vulnerable in society. And there's one hell of a difference. It doesn't mean they should lose their position altogether. It just maybe they need to be shifted to another sector where they're not working with the most vulnerable. And I don't think that's completely unreasonable.
See, this is confusing for me. It's from Lisa James again. They turned our Millennium Stadium into a hospital, and they turned Paradise into a parking lot as well. They turned our Millennium Stadium into a hospital. They had 8 people in it, and it cost millions. But whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? There's no point pointing a finger. They're expecting vast numbers. If only 8 people turn up, whose fault is that?
But is that necessarily a terrible thing if it was only needed by 8 people? It was probably needed by more, but
it's like a good thing. I think my mum should have been seen at hospital after the fall. Oh my God. Yeah, Veronica, you're damn right. Breastbone is a concern, but petrified all the same for hospital visit. Trust. The paramedics who after 7-hour wait were phenomenal with mum. You know, one of the things about getting old, especially when we see it, well, I saw it with my mum. Phil, thank God, hasn't got this, but you know, with my mum, it all went horribly wrong once she had a fall with my friend Hilary O'Neill. Every time her mum keeps having falls, and I said, it's the start. It's awful. To you and I, thank God, we pick ourselves up, brush ourselves down, feel a bit stupid, especially in public, and we get on. We just tripped over our own stupid feet. But when you're elderly and you fall over, the ramifications of that can be horribly serious.
It happened with my late grandmother.
Veronica, you've said a thing here, and I want to just dig down a little bit. You said you're petrified all the same for the hospital visit. Are you petrified? You're going to catch a serious question. Are you petrified because you think you're going to catch something there? Is that why you're worried? I get that. What do we got here, Veronica? Some of these people are intelligent people who are expressing the view they have. It's alarming when people you respect have these opinions. Well, being an intelligent person and having a view doesn't mean that view is right. It's just their view. It doesn't mean it's right. Now, somebody else is, for my mum catching. Veronica's worried that her mum's going to catch something if she goes to hospital. Oh, right. Here we go. Now, this is a really, really big point. Would you like to read it out, Phil Dave?
Well, of course, the problem is that he addresses it to you, but happily. Russ, this goes back to the breakdown in the integrity of the relationship between the media and the wider population. People now are only too happy to accept dodgy conspiracies as they believe the counter-narratives from the snake oil merchants. Well, actually, Ramsey, I think there's definitely an element of truth to that, but I believe it's more underlying than that to an individual rather than just the media's fault. I believe personally that it's a coping mechanism. If you think about it, what better way to deal with a situation than for somebody else to tell you you are right in your thinking? So, in other words, if someone does believe that Bill Gates has somehow miraculously inserted a computer chip, for the latest update, go to Microsoft.com. If someone does genuinely believe that Bill Gates has inserted a chip into all of us miraculously as in controlling our minds, then I would suggest that what better way to give yourself a pat on the back and to reassure you that you're not going mad than to look up a website that tells you that's exactly what you should think. It's a coping mechanism. They don't want to accept the reality.
We've been having this conversation for a long time, and a lot of this conspiracy bullshit is because people can't accept real life. They can't accept it. Their mind is so fragile and fractured, they can't accept what is real. And so they look for support and they look for reinforcement from other people who are as equally deluded as they are. My perfect example for this, of course, is the flat earth believers. Anyone who is not mentally ill knows the earth is not flat. It has never been flat. The earth is essentially a sphere. But because people, why would they want to believe this? It makes no sense whatsoever. But intelligent people do very, very sophisticated documentaries on YouTube. God knows there's hundreds of them explaining not only is the earth flat, but at a certain height, rockets bounce back because we are enveloped by a sort of glass globe around us. Now, if you met this person in the street, you'd think it's a highly intelligent person. They're nuts. I'm sorry to use the phrase in a mental health station that I co-founded with Howard. They're barking mad. End of. There's no point in having a discussion about it. They're sick. The chip thing is hysterical. Bill Gates did pull his money out of Microsoft, put it in the world's biggest pharmaceutical companies. He actually told us about this pandemic in 2015. Yep, you know.
Lisa also says before that, why have the Food and Drugs Association, the FDA, said they can't publish the findings of the serious side effects until 2023? I, for one, was hospitalized twice after each jab. There was 8 people in my ward, had no underlying health problems. And look at how many footballers and athletes have had heart attacks post-jab. Oh, come on, Lisa, really? It has been... I was going to say, I don't know that at all. It has been significantly proved that it causes blood clots. No, it is a trial drug. Mine isn't a view. I have done a massive amount of research. Okay, so Lisa, let's break that down because there's a couple of things in there. First and foremost, okay, footballers having heart attacks. Well, I'm afraid that's nothing new. You know, I mean, they could have had heart attacks with or without the jab. Let's be honest. No idea if that's the cause of it. And with respect, I don't believe you know that either. As far with the results of saying this is a massive trial, well, no, the trials have all been done. They had to be carried out before they released this. They had to.
It's not a trial.
It's not possible to release a drug until it's been gone through trials. That's the reason why it took so long to get it. Actually, they potentially had a vaccination for COVID within weeks of the virus being discovered at the scale it was, but they were not allowed to release it because of having to go through trials. And as for the blood clots thing, yes, it is true. A very small number, a minute number of people do suffer with blood clots. But in the grand scheme of things, billions of people worldwide have received this vaccination and by and large have been fine. For the handful of people that we know it does affect in a certain way, it does either cause blood clots or other health problems that we may not have been aware of beforehand, you've got to think of it like this. What poses more of a risk? A vaccination that may or may not cause an underlying health issue or a side effect, or a virus that we know is killing people in the millions. You've got to weigh up the risks.
Not just that, Lisa, and everybody else, all right? People take Anodin, people take cough and flu medicine, people take Nurofen. No one bothers to look at the leaflet. All of these things come with a leaflet. Now, I have to take a number of drugs for health issues. All of them come with a leaflet.
I'm pleased you clarified that.
And if you read the leaflet, any drug, I repeat, any drug can have a side effect. It is a highly unlikely, take something like, I don't know, a proprietary brand, Nurofen, Anodin, Panadol, anything like that, that it's going to affect you. What it will do is probably help you with your cold symptoms or get rid of your headache or stop a bit of muscle ache. There will be a minute percentage who potentially could have an adverse reaction. And you're going to get that with anything at all. It is not enough, in my humble opinion, I'm not a doctor, Phil's not a doctor, it is not enough to put billions of people at risk because a tiny percentage might have an adverse reaction. That's why. And that's how I feel about it.
Ramsey says, the last 5 years have left me a bit depressed about our fate as a human race. In the last century, we went from inventing flying machines made of wood and cloth to creating machines that put 12 men on the moon and brought them back safely. This century, we can't even agree to save the planet. Well, I'd say that, frankly, the biggest threat to mankind, Ramsey, is less climate change, more likely to be technology, artificial intelligence. We've already been proven that AI is far superior to the way any human can think. And I believe that if we don't get a grip on that now, well, sorry, human race is doomed. I don't know when that will be, but it is.
Here's the thing. Elon Musk, his biggest fear is artificial intelligence. Now, you will immediately start screaming, but here's the guy who put in self-driving cars. And even in the interviews have said yes. And he said, but that's controllable. He is terrified of AI. And there's loads of interviews with him. Absolutely fascinating. Chrissy says, ibuprofen causes ulcers long term, but 1 in a million get an ulcer. That's correct. Chrissy Richards in Spain, I believe no matter what you do or don't do when your time's up, it's up. Well, that was my dad's philosophy. You know, if it's your time, it's your time. It's not your time, it's not your time.
You kind of have to go on that basis, you know, because if you, but honestly, if you don't, then you could just drive yourself balmy with thinking about everything that might or might not happen. And what's the point of that? Live, enjoy.
And more importantly, you can go dance yourself dizzy. I like that.
Well, quite.
Silly little song. Yeah, it's interesting. We can all be fatalists. But then, of course, you could say, by Chris's logic, and one which I don't terribly disagree with, to be honest, you could say, well, I'm not going to have the vaccination. I'm not going to have a boost or anything because if my time's up, my time's up. That's you. All right. That is you. It's not what you're doing to other people. See the difference? I find it very selfish. Not wearing a mask on public transport, which drives me absolutely mad, I find disgustingly selfish. What are we asking you to do? Put a piece of cloth over your mouth. If you don't do it for yourself, have a little courtesy. Do it for other people. Do
you know what I'm absolutely staggered by, though? Is I do not understand why there has not been official research conducted into whether or not masks do or do not work. I can't count the number of times I have heard conflicting opinions. One scientist saying masks don't work. Another one saying, of course they work. Where's the official research? All we need is someone to carry that out, definitively say one way or another, we've warned them for the past goodness knows how many months, probably 18, 19, 20 months, whatever it is. How on earth do we not know by now whether or not masks do or do not have any definitive impact on the spread of the virus? And unfortunately, we have those who want us to believe they do, telling us they do, and those who want us to believe they don't, telling us they don't. It shouldn't be that difficult.
What is at the heart of this, Phil? What is at the heart of this? It's a very good point, Diane. I don't know, but it's a good point. What is at the heart of all? I'm sorry, I didn't read it out. I keep forgetting Lux Radio only listen to this. They're going, what the hell are you doing? Sorry, Diane Taylor says, I wonder how many of the conspiracy people have their children vaccinated. Good point. Listen, if Piers Corbyn, brother of you know who, is for one thing, you can guarantee I'm going to be diametrically opposed because I think he's a swivel-eyed lunatic, but that's just me. Right, masks do work, says Ramsey. Let's put it up. Masks do work to say, otherwise he's crazy. Why have surgeons been wearing masks for decades?
And I agree with that, Ramsey. So the counter argument that I always get from that, and I put that same point across, the counter argument you get from that is because surgeons wear the masks to protect the patient from droplets that could otherwise sort of go into a patient and sort of cause some sort of infection. So these droplets, may cause harm to someone with an open wound, but they say there is nothing necessarily to stop droplets in the air from just blowing away rather than actually being breathed in by somebody else. Do you see what I mean? So make no mistake, I agree completely. I would have thought the fact that masks are worn by surgeons for a very good reason has got something to do with it. And then the other argument I hear all the time as well, but they're medical grade masks. People don't go around wearing medical grade masks. They're not wearing cloth masks, and they're only wearing sort of thin layer ones, the disposable ones. They need to be medical grade, blah, 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 which may well be the case. But in which case, why on earth aren't we told that clearly, that don't wear the cloth masks, they're no good, you should wear medical grade? They should tell us.
Ramsey.
Very naughty, Ramsey. Very, very naughty.
People wear pants? Ask yourself that.
I dare suggest some people probably don't, but I don't want to think about that if it's all the same to you.
And by the way, Azadon Brown in New York, pants over here means underwear. Pants in America, of course, means trousers, which causes. By the way, that's a new name to us. I don't recognize it, but welcome to Men's Radio, Jeremy Brannan. Lovely to have
Masks work because they stop you from directly touching your gob. Well, quite.
Good. There you go. Now, what have we got here? There's something I want. I've lost it. Someone's got a concert coming up and they're shaking in their shoes. Where is it? Oh, live for
Shaking Stevens.
Live for the day. I'm shaking in my shoes. It's our concert tomorrow night, says Chrissy Richards in Spain, in front of lots of people. Plus, I've got to drive there and back.
Go on, Chrissy. You can do it. Chrissy, will you live stream it for us?
Oh, we'd love to see a little bit of it. If you can do a little bit of video and send it to us.
Absolutely, yes. Do a recording and send it on to us. That would be terrific.
We'd love to see that. Oh, joking aside, we'd love to see it. It'd be nice. We'd love to see what you guys do. It's really, you can see what we do. You see us all the blooming time. But I think it's really, here we go. Right, back to America, the United States of, well, just United States, it appears, Azadon. I've read three written. Sorry, I know you don't talk like that. I'm so sorry. It's just the hat. Hey, y'all. I've read three recent research articles on the subject per Stanford University. Surgical masks reduce COVID-19 spread. Large-scale studies. Could you read this? My throat's just suddenly decided to pack.
A large-scale study shows researchers found that surgical masks impede the spread of COVID-19 and that just a few low-cost interventions increase mask-wearing compliance. September 1st, 2021, by Krista Conger. I don't know who that is, but thank you very much indeed for that, Asa. Now, look, this is my point, though. As you look out there and you will see that there are arguments in favor. More importantly, there's research in favor and there is research against wearing masks as well. Whichever way you look, if you want to find something online, you will find it. And this is what I personally object to the most. I do not understand why in this day and age, and this is what I very much hope that this has proven, the pandemic has proven, that we need to get a grip on what information goes out there online. I am perfectly aware that it's in the billions and billions of pages out there with potential information that could be either harmful or deadly. And people need to be either educated to spot the legitimate ones from the illegitimate, or better still, the companies that post illegitimate reports out there or illegitimate information that could ultimately harm people's lives needs to be taken to task. I don't understand it. It's exactly the same way that if someone went round posting on a website that a certain race of people need to have their lives extinguished because they are who they are, it's the same premise. You're ultimately inflicting harm on another human being through pure negligence and stupidity. Why not? Why on earth don't we get a grip?
We had a special guest booked for 12 who has managed to turn up at 5:02. Johnny, we're gonna have to take you on another day, mate. I'm really sorry. You've turned up like an hour late.
Oh, we can't hear you, Johnny, because you're in the digital green room, so I'm afraid.
Johnny, I'm really sorry, mate, but you've turned up like an hour late. So I'll get hold of you later in the day, and we'll have to rebook it. We'll have to.
But hang on, you can't leave people wondering who we're talking about, can you?
Where have you been, man?
I had massive technical difficulties. I am so sorry. So I've literally for somebody's telephone to get in just to even do this. I've got no computer. I don't know what is going on. So what can I say? I'm really
I blame
sorry.
Alex Proud. That's who I blame. I'm blaming him straight away.
Me too. I am so sorry.
Because the only reason is, having met you down in Hove when we did that wonderful men's health panel with the great Sophie Corbett, and I thought, oh man, I've got to get this guy on the show because I thought you were a sensation.
Johnny, you know that Movember's done with now, right?
I wish it was. Movember lives on in my heart.
Of course,
clearly.
Now, what we'll do is I'll send you some dates or whatever, and we'll get you back because
it sounds good.
No, I'd love to do that. I thought you were such an interesting guy. You got
just
so much to
sorry
talk
to
about.
have missed you.
Please stop apologizing.
Not my
Please, Johnny, stop apologizing. Believe me, I've had technical stuff that has driven me round the bend. We will catch up soon. It is lovely to see you. The most important thing is you're well. You look great.
Of course.
Give our love to everybody at Pride Embankment, if you would.
I will do.
And Proud Embankment, rather.
Oh, and by the way, I might also suggest, John, as well, that just be reassured, Russ started this blooming station and he's missed shows before because of his technical difficulties, so don't worry about it at all.
I have. Oh, that's a nice place.
Really.
Where are you? Hang on, Johnny. Where are you? I got 3 minutes. Where are you? It looks fantastic. Give us a look.
I'm in my kitchen.
Hey, get you.
Oh no, very nice.
Wow.
I'm in my kitchen. This is where all the magic happens.
That is because you know, right up your street, Phil.
Hello.
We're talking to the most fantastic cook as well. You know that.
Oh well.
Winner of MasterChef as well.
Trophy to prove it.
Oh yeah, winner of MasterChef we're talking about. That's not why he's here. Anyway, look, I'm sending lots of love. I thought you were fantastic when we met, and we're going to get you, and I'm going to give you.
Please let's do it again, because obviously this time of the year it is very important to keep that conversation going and to encourage people, if they do need help, if they are struggling, to reach out. And there are many ways that you can do this. And I'm just I just really would like to mention that in the brief time that I'm here with you.
Oh, and by the way, not wishing to sound like a total Twitter stalker, but can I just point out, I don't even eat meat or anything like that. I'm vegetarian, but Sunday roast pizza, why has no one told that before?
Oh my God, it was so good. But listen, it can very easily have been vegetarian. All you had to do was remove that beautiful steak from the top, and the whole rest of it was vegetarian.
More for me.
And that is how you know it couldn't have easily been vegetarian, because you've just said, remove that beautiful steak. That's an oxymoron to me. Sorry, a steak is not beautiful. It's a dead animal. Get over it.
Stop it. Right, shut up, Phil. Shut up. Just shut up.
Excellent.
Okay, yes, it is a dead animal. If it was alive, I think then there would actually be a problem. But yeah,
hey, I hate to tell you, there are parts of the world that do that, but let's not dwell on that at all. Right. Anyway,
had breakfast. So, Johnny, thanks for joining us. I thought I was going mad, and I hadn't sent you all the links and everything. Right, I will sort it out later today, and we'll get you back on.
Sounds good to me. Bye bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Farewell. Oh, here you go. He's gone.
such an interesting guy, gang. I know you're going to really enjoy when he comes back on. We met down in Brighton when we did the mental health panel down there with Sophie Corbett.
And you just pounced on him. You didn't leave him alone ever since.
No, I asked all the people on the panel. We've already had one. Do you remember that fantastic guy who was loaded? I don't mean he was loaded. Worked with loaded.
And now you know why you had him on as well. Oh dear. Thank you so much for all of your comments. It's flown by today. It's been very exciting today. And so actually, I quite like it in some weird way when we just have a natter. It works.
Lisa, no one's attacking you. Come on. No one's
Lisa, no one's attacked. I promise. We love you, really. Anyway,
welcome here. You know that. And Lisa, please don't do that.
We'll see you on Wednesday at midday. Bye bye.
Have a good day.